good morning and welcome to the United Stand. I hope you're all doing well this morning. I'm Mark Goldbridge and this is your latest Manchester United transfer news as an emergency midfield transfer decision is made. It's also going to be Ligt and Mazraoui Day. I think we all know that. It's just a case of when and not if. What else have we got for you? We've got Jaden Sancho potentially heading out on loan. Hermoso is not a target for Manchester United, but Marcus Alonso may well be one. A bit of an update on Dumfries, and Amrabat could still join Manchester United on loan. As we were speaking about last night, Ugarte still remains number one choice for Manchester United, but we have got this story coming in this morning from The Athletic revolving around cheap deals and Sander BERGE. So what they're basically saying is that talks are continuing with Sander BERGE and Manchester United, and that Manchester United will make a midfield signing before the end of this transfer window, even if it's a low-cost one. So Manchester United will be making a midfield signing this summer transfer window, even if they have to go for Amrabat or Sander BERGE on the cheap. And this is because Erik ten Hag has made it very, very clear to the board that he must have more than what he has in the number 6 position specifically. As we've said, I personally would rather we kept the money in the pocket and saved it to January or next summer to bring in a proper holding midfielder, rather than just spend money on people who isn't good enough that then might impact our ability to spend in January. However, in fairness, although we've got Casemiro, Mainu, Collier, McTominay, Eriksen, Mount and Bruno, technically we've got 7 midfielders. When it comes to number 6s, we've only really got Casemiro. Mainu can do it and Collier's a kid. So I do get what Ten Hag's saying. He's like, look, I need more than Casemiro, who can play as a number 6. And Eriksen can't, McTominay can't, Mount can't, Bruno can't. It's not really Mainu's best position, and Collier's a kid. So I've got Casemiro, and that's it. I need somebody else who can do that role. So you can't criticise that. As much as I'd say, well, I'd keep my money in my pocket. There is an if Casemiro gets injured, we don't have a 6. So you have to go and get somebody. I completely accept that. And that is why The Athletic this morning are saying, regardless of what happens with Ugarte or anything else, Man United will buy a number 6, even if they have to go with their cheap plan D, E, F, G, H, I, J, whatever Sander BERGE or Amrabat is. They're clearly not plan A, B or C, but Man United will still go and do that deal. It is what it is. You've got to be pragmatic. You've got to be mature about this. Would you rather be in a position where you don't get what you want and you don't get anything? We've seen United do that before. I think that we've got a whole big season ahead of us. We'll be playing 2-3 games a week for 9 months. And it's not even if Casemiro can play every week. What if he plays crap? You've got to have an alternative. And if it is Amrabat or it is Sander BERGE, then at least you have an alternative. Obviously, it depends on the quality of that player. But I think as well, what we must not forget is that this is an emergency transfer. Like this is not the plan. This is a plan, but it's not plan A. It's a plan. The A's in front of plan instead of after plan. And Wade says, off topic, Mark, here's another beer for you, mate. Cheers, mate. Absolute legend on a Tuesday morning. Love that. I might save it till a Thursday or Friday night, but I love that. Thank you very much for your support. Give us your thoughts on what we're talking about here, actually, on the midfield situation, because I don't want Sander BERGE. I don't really want Amrabat as our midfield signing. I want somebody more significant, but I have to concede it's disappointing, but I'd rather that than nothing. Because nothing can't play in holding midfielder for Man United, whereas BERGE and Amrabat can, and you never know, they might do an okay job there. Short-term fix, definitely. But I think if you're looking for somebody to blame on this, and blame's a harsh word, but ultimately blame is there, why have we not got a deal done for Ugarte? Well, there's still 2 or 3 weeks left in the transfer window, and PSG's price is unrealistic. Secondary to that, we've also not been able to sell a midfielder. So as much as we want Ugarte and let's just say this, as we said last night, Ugarte is the De Ligt of the midfield. Ugarte is the player that maybe many of you were not talking about in February, March and April. I don't remember Ugarte being on the hotometer or being mentioned in here. So, you know, let's not pretend there's been an obsession about Ugarte in this fan base, because there hasn't. What happened is, at the end of June, David Ornstein said Man United are looking at Ugarte, and everyone went, bloody hell, yes, because we'd looked at him a year ago at Sporting Lisbon, liked him, and he went to PSG. So Ugarte is an Ineos-led deal where in their group, like with De Ligt, they've gone, we need this type of player. Oh, this is the player we want. So we're led by Ineos on Ugarte. He is their plan A. But getting that deal done is difficult because we can't sell anybody and we can't bring anybody in. We can't get that price down with PSG at the moment. So if that continues for another 2 weeks, do you close the window down and go, we couldn't get Ugarte like we couldn't get De Jong two years ago? Or do you go, we can't get Ugarte, we're going to get Amrabat back on loan, or we're going to get Sander Berge? I probably would say I've answered my own question there. Sander Berge, according to The Athletic, will cost £20 million. And he wants 100 grand a week. Amrabat will cost about 8. I'd get Amrabat because you keep 12 million in your pocket, and I think Amrabat's better than Berge. And if you're going to go short term, at least Amrabat is cheaper. I would go Amrabat and keep 12 million in the pocket, because I'm going to be realistic here. We might not get that Ugarte deal done. PSG want to sell him. Man United want him as their plan A, but we might not get that done. And if we've got to do something, then I'd just do Amrabat. I think that's the one to do. But we are in talks with Burnley. He didn't play last night. Apparently he's got a bit of an injury, but it could be one of those. And I think we've just got to be, as I said, realistic to the fact that if it ends up being Amrabat and it ends up being Berge, that will be the first signing that Ineos haven't got what they wanted. They haven't got a plan A. It might be in the most significant area of the pitch, because if we'd got Ugarte or we'd got a Zubimendi, they would be starting as our number 6 in the most important area in the pitch. We might just end up with Casemiro and a backup in Berge or Amrabat, but you know, we'll have to wait and see. My confidence is that they'll get Ugarte. I can't say anything like concrete. Concrete is the word of the 2024 summer transfer window. Oh, it is. It is. Yes, indeedy. 2024's summer transfer window word is concrete. And I can't be concrete that we will get Ugarte. It's just a hunch. I think that Ineos want to get plan A. They want to be best in class. And I think that they will get him. But they're obviously working on backups. And I think that's wise, even if I don't agree with one of the options. I also think as well, before I go into some of your opinions, I did mention blame. If you want to blame somebody for this, then it's very, very obvious where the blame lies. And the blame lies with Ed Woodward, Richard Arnold, John Murtagh, the Glazers. That's where the blame lies. I've heard some people saying, well, it's not. It's Casemiro, it's Eriksen, it's McTominay. He won't just fuck off and let us move on. I mean, yeah, but Casemiro's on 350 grand a week given to him by Richard Arnold and John Murtagh. Christian Eriksen's on 150 grand a week given to him by John Murtagh and Richard Arnold. Or was it Woodward? I don't remember 2 years ago. But whoever the CEO was. So they're on silly wages. That's why we can't get rid of them. And the reason we can't sign Ugarte is because we can't sell a midfielder. We need to sell to buy. That's why we're looking at cheap options. That's why The Athletic are saying Man United, in a nutshell, the reason The Athletic are saying that Man United will sign a midfielder regardless of whether they sell a midfielder is because we can get a cheap option in like Berge or Amrabat. But the reason we're looking at Amrabat and Berge as cheap emergency options is because we can't sell McTominay, Casemiro. We can't sell either of them. If we could sell one of them, we'd be buying a better midfielder, whether it's Ugarte, whether it's Fofana for 30 million. We would be buying a better midfielder if we could sell a midfielder. If we can't sell a midfielder, we'll end up with a cheap emergency option like Sander Berge or Amrabat. And that's where we are. So you can apportion blame, you can get frustrated, or you can do what I'm doing and going, well, it is what it is. you know, I don't blame Ineos for this. It is what it is. What are you supposed to do? If McTominay won't go and Casemiro won't go, I'm not selling Mainu. I can't sell Mount. I'm not selling Bruno. So I can't sell a midfielder. So I've got to go cheap. And that's where we're at. I mean, look, The Athletic does say, to be fair, I mean, I'm just going to go through the article now because there is news in that article. But I'm just going to go through it and say that with regards to Scott McTominay, he could still go. Many would say, why hasn't he gone? But they're saying Scott McTominay's future may not be resolved until the final fortnight of the window. Fulham retain interest and Napoli are also weighing up an approach. Everton, Brentford, Galatasaray and Fenerbahce have all made inquiries. So, look, there's a lot of interest there. Man United want 25 million quid. In the grand scheme of things, of what Smith Rowe went for, I don't think we're wrong to ask for that. But if McTominay goes, we can get Ugarte. It's as simple as that. If Casemiro goes, we can get Ugarte. So, as we've said, if you don't want Amrabat and Sander Berge, that's because the only reason we're going for them is because they're cheap. They're emergency options. If we sell McTominay or Casemiro, we can go for plan A again. And that's where we're at. John says, what about selling Eriksen? Well, the trouble with selling Eriksen is we won't get any money for him. He's got 1 year left on his contract. James Cave says, a cheap option this summer would still leave the door open for Ugarte next year because he's plan A and Casemiro will still need replacing. Hopefully the defensive changes will make the role easier, says James. Yes, James, and I think you make a good point. I mean, the door may still be open for Ugarte. That's very, very true. I suppose what I would say is if you do get Ugarte this summer, then next summer you're focusing on something else. One of the big problems under the Glazer regime was kicking a problem down the road. We didn't get Sancho one summer and the next summer was all about Sancho again. So you waste 2 summers on one player. We didn't get Bruno in the summer, so we had to do it in January. If you can get and this is something that Ineos will be very aware of because it's about efficiency, best in class, improvement, Ineos will be exactly the same as what I'm saying here. They will want Ugarte now because if they wait till next summer, they're spending another summer on a problem that they could have solved a year ago. And that is something that Ineos have been doing for years. But you're right, James, there may still be an opportunity. Paul Taylor, welcome to the Members Club. Jay King says, morning Mark and the community. There was some news about PSG want Sancho on loan. Could that help us get Ugarte, says Jay King. Well, I've seen this story about Sancho this morning, and I will bring it in here because somebody's mentioned it. There's a lot of good comments coming in. I feel a bit pissed off about that story because, you know, last night on the 8 o'clock show, we did quite a big 10 to 15 minutes on what's going on at PSG based on proper good research around the French news space and the PSG big fan accounts. And basically what we said last night is that PSG still really want to move Ugarte on. They're bringing that Doué in. But they still retain an interest in Jaden Sancho if Man United get real on the price. And then lo and behold, I wake up this morning and some, average bloody UK outlet are saying PSG want Sancho on loan. And I'm like, they're not even referencing where that story is coming from, which is last night, there was a lot of French outlets talking about PSG's interest in Jaden Sancho if Man United get realistic. I just think what's happened there is this English outlet have gone, well, PSG would want Sancho on loan because it's just a very easy story to write. Man United want to sell Jaden Sancho. Loaning Jaden Sancho kicks the problem down the road unless there's an obligation to buy. And as we know with an obligation to buy, because there was talk about it with Ugarte a few weeks ago, if we take Ugarte on loan with an obligation to buy, that means you have to buy him next summer. If you take them on loan with no obligation to buy, you can send them back like we did with Sabitzer, like we did with Weghorst. So a loan deal for Man United. I mean, look, Sancho did reasonably well at Dortmund. No takers because his wage is ridiculous. So I don't think United really are going to be up for loaning Sancho to PSG unless there's something else involved in that. Because covering his wages for a year might help. But ultimately, we want something a little bit more final in that. So I don't think a pure loan for Jaden Sancho has got any legs in it. But What has got legs in it, and we spoke about it last night, is that PSG still retain an interest in Jaden Sancho, as do Juventus. So I'm hopeful that something can happen. Emric says, Ineos won't give up on Ugarte easily, just as they didn't with De Ligt, and they want to make a statement. I agree, Emric. I completely agree. I think that I'm still hunch confident that we will get Ugarte. However, Ryan says, do you think Liverpool will now hijack Ugarte? I don't think they will, actually. I mean, they've obviously got the money to do it, but I don't think Liverpool are going to look at a Man United transfer like a Chelsea would or somebody and go, let's hijack their deal to show that we're a bigger club than them. Ugarte's got a lot of strengths, but I don't think I think him and Zubamendi are very, very different. And the way Liverpool identified Arnie Slot, Liverpool, they wanted a midfielder who can, who's a possession monster. Whereas I think that Ugarte is more of a defensive monster in the sense that Man United need that tenacious ball-winning player in the midfield who's mobile. I mean, he's still okay on the ball. I'm not saying he's bad, but I think Zubamendi is very different to Ugarte, and Alexis McAllister is more. He's quite tenacious in the tackle. So do you need Ugarte and McAllister? I think they wanted somebody who was a bit more ball playing. I wouldn't be surprised if Liverpool. Well, I would be surprised, but what I would say is, wouldn't be a bad fit for Liverpool, would be more of a Frankie de Jong if they're looking for a ball-playing midfielder. Patrick Lynch says, the issue here is that we need cover considering we know we'll have a very heavy playing schedule. Last season's injury crisis was partly caused by the overload of the previous season. Maybe cheap is better than nothing. Well, it is. It is, Patrick. I completely agree. I don't want it to happen. I don't want to go chirpy, chirpy, cheap, but I would do it over nothing. But I still retain a confidence that we'll get what Ineos want, which is Ugarte. Good morning, Mark. I stayed up till 3 a.m. for this. Been a member for years, and this is my first super chat. Today's my 21st birthday as well, says Al Sadana. Wish me a happy birthday. Well, happy birthday, mate. And I tell you what, I never really think about the fact that some of you amazing viewers around the world might be watching this at unorthodox time, shall we say. I mean, it's a 10 o'clock show in the UK, but as we learnt with the US tour, 10 o'clock in the UK ain't 10 o'clock everywhere else. So if you are one of those legends who is watching from anywhere in the world, you're very welcome. If you are one of those legends, and big shout out to those who are watching after midnight in the early hours, then that is what makes this community so great. So thank you very much for tuning in, and happy birthday to Al. Mahamad, welcome to Members Club. Thank you. Joe says, why don't we go for Conor Gallagher if it's only 35 million? I'd be happy with that as a midfield option. Well, Conor Gallagher's apparently flying back to London now because there's, you know what? I'm just very glad that we're about to announce Ligt and Mazraoui. That will be today, by the way. There's still, that nothing changes with Ligt and Mazraoui. I was looking at the comments before we went live this morning, and people were saying, I'm getting a bit nervous about Mazraoui and Ligt. They're not official yet, and we play on Friday. They're clearly not going to play. Nothing impacts that at all. Man United could wait till Thursday to do, here they are with the pictures. They've done their medicals. They've done their pictures. I don't know how it works with this signing. They might, I don't know. I've never understood this. Have they officially signed and been registered yet? Or is that when they put it out publicly for the media? Because they're both expected to train today, and Ten Hag will lose his shit if they can't train today because we haven't edited the video together. So look, what I'm trying to say is they did everything that needed to be done from them yesterday. De Ligt was out in a restaurant in Manchester with Mazraoui last night. So they're Man United players. They'll be training today. Fulham are on Friday. I want to see De Ligt starting that game. But today at some point it will get announced by United. Now I actually thought it could have been 8 o'clock, 10 o'clock, could be midday, could be 6 o'clock tonight, could be 2 o'clock. But at some point, 1, 2, 3 o'clock, 4 o'clock, rock. 5, 6, 7 o'clock, 8 o'clock, rock. 9, 10, 11 o'clock. It's not going to happen. Go to bed. Stop. No, but it will be. It will be at some point today, definitely. And I'm excited about that. I'm excited to see. I'm excited to hear what De Ligt's got to say, even if it's just the normal PR nonsense that Man United are a massive club, because that's just symbolic. I'm really excited about De Ligt. So it will be today, and it won't impact anything to do with Fulham whenever it is, because as long as they train today, which they're apparently going to, then that's all that matters. Edward V is a legend. He literally is Edward V because he's gifted 5 memberships. Wow, legend. Thank you, Edward. Off topic, Mark, we've done that one. Papa Green's been a member for 45 months. Membership should be called Mojos from now on. Sustando. He does gift a lot of memberships, but he doesn't gift all of them, as we've just seen with Edward V. Finally, we can use Onana for what we bought him for, says Tony Martial. Very excited about that, Tony, actually. Let's continue with this transfer news, though. So Ben Jones says, any 2 from Ugarte, Rabiot, Amrabat, Fofana. I'd be happy with Ugarte and any of the others. I think Rabiot and Ugarte, Rabiot comes in with a personality that might be quite disruptive. Amrabat we've seen. Fofana's more... I think I'd go Ugarte and Fofana just because Fofana's something a little bit different, and he's the youngest out of Rabiot and Amrabat. But I'd be happy with Ugarte and Amrabat. Yeah, I would. Alex says, if Ineos want to go the cheaper route away from Ugarte, I'm surprised they're not looking at Edison from Atalanta. The problem with Edison from Atalanta is that Atalanta are adamant they won't sell him, mate. So the price will go up because they don't want to sell. Paul Taylor says, I read we're looking into Calvert-Lewin again. Why is all this nonsense getting put out? What Pratt's making up that shit? Slow Sports News, mate, said this yesterday. Basically, Sam C, who works on the United Stand, put it out about Calvert-Lewin in March. And it's been floating around for a few months now. Sky yesterday put it out there that Man United are looking at Calvert-Lewin, but it's not an active line of inquiry at the moment. It's a page filler. It's a story where they can't be called liars, but nothing's actually happening. Seen the news that Kurt Zima failed his CAT scan, says World of Enzo. Ba-dum-dum. And can we all take a moment to laugh at loser Paul, says Grace. I've got a video coming out on That's Football for that. Let's hope Liverpool look to hijack the BERGE deal, says Phil. Well, this is it. Liverpool won't look to hijack the Sander Berge deal because nobody's looking at Sander Berge apart from us. And Mohammed says, Man United lack of creativity. Even if we want to play reactive football, I think there is a chance to sign De Jong. I think we need him instead. I don't think there's any chance of signing De Jong. And Edward V says, if Maguire and Lindelof leave, would that force the hand to buy another centre-back? Well, it would do, yes. It would, yeah, definitely. Talking about the defence, also in The Athletic, we'd sort of heard it a bit yesterday, but they've sort of confirmed a few things about the defence. First of all, let's just talk about the right-back situation. They're saying that Man United and Inter Milan did have talks about Dumfries and Wan-Bissaka swap deal, but Inzaghi wasn't convinced that Wan-Bissaka was the right-back that he wanted, and Man United wanted Mazraoui, so that's why that never happened. There was genuine Dumfries swap talks, but it just didn't work for Inter and it didn't work for us, so that didn't happen. In relation to Hermoso, The Athletic are saying that Man United have discussed it, but he's not an active line of inquiry, so I think we can park that one. Those things happen. You look at something, it hits the news for a few days, and then ultimately they decide they're not going to do something about it. I don't know why they're not going to do anything about it. I mean, I'm not going to cry about it. For me, when I heard about Hermoso, I was sort of like, well, I think it makes a bit of sense. It's a free transfer. He can play left centre-back. Sometimes a free transfer can be really important. But, if we don't do it, we don't do it. It might be because there's more wages on offer from Saudi Arabia, as we discussed yesterday. Happy birthday, Al. I'm not going to read that word out because I don't know what it means, and you're now worrying me that you want me to say that. Club says Casemiro is in decline, but use him as a 6 with high defence line and the energy of Mainu. We have young alternative in Collier. Add Berge. Amra is okay. And is this summer open heart surgery or a simple bypass, says Paul? Well, I think we'll find out in the next few weeks. Yeah, I think we'll find out in the next few weeks. But on Hermosa, that's not looking like that's going to happen now. Unfortunately, a name... Look, I've got to be very, very clear here. It's always about opinion. I'm not content with Sander Berge coming to United. I don't like the deal. I don't like it. I've just got a bad feeling about it. You can't knock me for that. I'm sure you get feelings about signings sometimes. I've just got a bad feeling about it. But it's not exclusive to Sander Berge. It's definitely applicable to this name. The Athletic have said don't rule out Marcus Alonso. well, I'm sorry. I'd rule him out. I'd rule him out. I do not want Marcos Alonso at Man United. He is, if Sander Berge is a little bit bland, Marcos Alonso, you know, no, I just do not like this deal. I do not like this deal. There are players out there that you just go, you give me nothing. Nothing. You don't give me anything. No excitement at all. And it's not just because he's played for Chelsea and Barcelona. I just think he's a ridiculously dull signing. Really dull. You could argue he's better than Hermoso, but Hermoso just, I feel Hermoso just felt a little bit more intriguing than Alonso. It just feels really dull. We were linked to him a year ago when we got Reguilon, and I was like, oh, please no. And again, we're linked to him again. And I'm like, I just don't want him. He's just so bland. I'm not saying he wouldn't do a job, but what I saw of him at Chelsea, he's got a lovely shot on him, but defensively, he's suspect. And also, I mean, how old is he? I mean, I want a left-back that's got, you know, all right, when Luke Shaw's fit is a big line, but when Luke Shaw's fit, he's up and down the pitch. This guy's 33. He's going to be 34 in December. You know, Santa will have more energy than him in December. And he's carrying a big sack. I don't like the Alonso deal. And I like a left-back that doesn't have to be Gutierrez, doesn't have to be Kadioglu. Okay, we might not have the money for that. But surely there's a loan or a left-back that's in their late 20s who's a little bit more exciting than Alonso. I wouldn't be excited about Alonso coming in if Luke Shaw was injured and Amaz isn't quite ready and he's our starting left-back. I think that would be... Imagine going to Anfield, back end of the season, really important game. Luke Shaw's injured again. Alonso at left-back up against Mo Salah. I'd be like, fucking hell. And that's how you've got to look at it. I think, as again... Don't judge the name, judge the game. And what people do is, and look, that's exactly what I do with Sander Berge. That's exactly what I do with any player. I think it's all right getting excited about a signing, but if you put them in a game like Arsenal away and Alonso's your left back up against Saka, I'm thinking, well, that's at least one goal for Arsenal they're going to get. So I don't understand it, but look, I've got to respect it. In fairness, we can't just dismiss names because we don't want them. Alonso is a name that constantly gets mentioned in relation to Manchester United, like constantly. So, yeah, we'll just have to wait and see what happens with that. Mojo has gifted him, but Hermoso's off, according to The Athletic as well. Mojo's a legend. He's in the chat. He's gifted 10 memberships. There you go. Legends. Mojo, hope you're doing well. Harrison Shaw, I'm debating whether we should block. I don't like blocking people, especially if they do a super chat. But look, people have crossed the line with racism and all sorts. So a super chat's not a free hit and never should be. And I'm thinking with Harrison Shaw that he's very close to being blocked here. He says Sander Berge brings more to the table than Kobbie Mainoo. I mean, I think that's one of the most offensive comments we've ever had. And I've been called a nonce. And that's worse than that. Sander Berge brings more to the table than Mainoo. I think that's just disgusting. In fact, I'm appalled that I had to repeat it. It's a disgusting comment, Harrison. Who should take the free kicks at Man United? Says Dejan. Bruno. As long as it's not Rashford smashing it. Bruno. I'm thinking about sticking Ahmad in my FPL team, says Fairway 5. Do you think he'll get enough starts to justify it? Well, I've got to take a look at mine over the next couple of days. And I do quite like the look of some of the United players because they're very, very well priced. But I don't think Ahmad will start against Fulham. Unless Rashford starts up front, I think it'll be Rashford on the left and Garnacho on the right. Barcelona are having trouble registering Dani Olmo. Any chances United swoop in for De Jong? Says JS. Right, I'm gonna say something here that might be controversial. On Frenkie De Jong, people say Barcelona want to sell. Nothing new. They've tried to sell De Jong for 2 years. People say swoop in and get him. Fine. His wages are ridiculous. Like, if you think 350k a week for Casemiro and 300k a week for Rashford's a lot of money, he's on touching 500k. So how does that work? Second of all, we can't be hypocrites. He doesn't want to play for Man United. Now, we can all laugh at Liverpool, but ultimately, when they get over their disappointment, Zubimendi didn't want to go. Fuck him. You know, De Jong didn't want to come to us. Fuck him. Like, I don't want players at this football club who don't want to be here, no matter how good they are. No, I don't. I'd rather go and get Ugarte who wants to play at Man United, even though we're not in the Champions League. I mean, De Jong just seems a bit up his own arse in the sense, I don't want to leave Barcelona. I don't want to go. No, we don't want you either. We're Manchester United. So I don't understand the De Jong obsession. And it might even be coming from the manager. But why would you ever bring a player in that's not actually that convinced? Why do we need to convince a player? Come to Man United. I know you don't want to do it, and we'll make you like it. It's like forcing somebody to marry you just because you're in love with them, but they don't love you. Fuck off. You know, we need players that want to be here. We've made this problem for 10 years. Club 1878 says Casemiro is in decline, but use him as 6 with a high defence and the energy of Mainoo with a young alternative in Collier. I've done that one. Just on that as well, The Athletic have said that Man United would be willing to offer... Sorry. The Athletic have said that Man United are willing to listen to offers for Sancho, Antony and Casemiro, but there aren't any offers. We must remember that. Through all the deals we're trying to do, one of the biggest barriers is the lack of interest in the players we want to sell. It's fine if you run a football club like Liverpool and someone rings up and said, we'll give you 40 million quid for Curtis Jones, because you might be thinking, well, I don't want to sell Curtis Jones, but that's an interesting offer. We won't take it, but thank you very much. It's all right being Man United and someone picks up the phone and says, yeah, we'd love to give you £70 million for Delo. And you go, okay, no, that's a lot of money. We don't want to sell Delo, but bloody hell, that's a lot of money. That's an interesting conversation. But the real problem is when your phone's not ringing at all and you've got a list of players that you desperately want to sell. And that's where United are. We've got quite a big list of players that were highlighted by Ineos as wanting to be sold. And we're not getting any phone calls. I'm surprised not enough people are talking about this, actually, because there's a lot of positivity around at the moment and it's really, really good. But look at it like this. We're going into a really important season, and we're going into a really important season with players that we don't want to use. It's no different to what Mourinho had, Ollie had, Van Gaal had, Rangnick had, Ten Hag has had. We are still going into a season with players that the club don't really want, and that automatically gives you a bit of an excuse, but more than that, makes your job harder, definitely. And I don't think it's been spoken about enough, because I still think we can have a good season, but it's still a factor when you're going into a season with players that you don't actually want, but you can't get rid of them. And that is the case at the moment. There's probably 4 or 5 players that Man United would desperately love to move on, that they can't do it. And I don't know why I'm not saying the names. Casemiro's one, Maguire's one, McTominay is one, Sancho is one, Antony probably is one as well at this point. Eriksen's one. Wan-Bissaka was one, but he should be gone. There could be more. There could be more. But there's a lot of players that United would love to move on that they can't move on. So I think it's really good that there's so much positivity and excitement when actually we still have got a lot of players here that we can't get rid of, that we're going to have to use. United needed this generation Nangolan. Who though? I remember. That's a name. That's a blast from the past. The Duke. Remember Raji Nangolan? I really would have. I think we looked at him when he was a bit old, but he was a real combative midfielder. Shawshank says Mojo has given so many gifts. Why the hell did he not buy the club? Berge is more creative than Bruno, says Harrison. Okay, Harrison, one more. And for your own protection, I'm going to have to just take you out. Sander, Rios, Andre, Paul, says the Duke. I'm not going to do that. We don't do 3 ways. And my left back signing is Uratara, says Ben. Jones, I'm not opposed to Berge and go for Wharton next year, says Ale Channel. I don't know. Look, I get it. It's a hipster thing. But I don't know why people are obsessed with Wharton next summer. That's going to be a very, very difficult deal to do. You're going to have to spend, I think... I've seen... What I'm trying to say is I've seen a lot of people talking about Wharton. Like, let's get someone in short term and then let's go... let's go... Sorry, I've got a journalist messaging me. Thanks, pal. Let's go and get... Let's get Amrabat now and let's get Wharton next year. People who are saying that are just saying it because it's a dream. I mean, the reality is that Wharton will have a better season this year than he had last year. And next summer, he'll be £80 million because he's British. So, I like the idea of Wharton, but how are you going to do that deal? How are you going to find £80 million to spend on one player? We won't be a club next summer that can do what Man City is in relation to our squad's so good, we just need to ice the cake and spend 80, 90 million pounds on one player. Next summer will be like this summer. I guarantee we'll still need to get rid of 7, 8, 9 players and we'll still need to bring in 4 or 5. Because if you're not thinking like that, then you're not being fair on the current Man United ownership and manager. This is not a one summer hit. We need this summer, next summer, and the summer after. This is 3 summer transfer windows of major renovation. You've got to bring 6 or 7 signings in each summer for the next 3, and you've got to get rid of 7, 8, 9, 10 players each summer for the next 3. Because the reason I say that is you might want to see McTominay, Maguire, Casemiro, etc. go this summer. But in 2 years' time, you'll be saying it about Shaw, because he'll be into his, like, he'll be probably 30 then, very injury prone, coming towards the end of his contract. You might be saying it about Bruno, because he'll only have another year or so on his contract. You know, it'll be that's what evolution is. This is going to be a project to gradually, you might be saying about Rashford, you know. So I don't think we're even going to be in a position next summer where we can go, let's just go and spend all our budget on Wharton and £80 million. I think what I would rather say, rather than Wharton, is when are we going to start hitting what Brighton have been done? You know, this is why we've brought in Barada and Wilcox and Ashworth. We need to start finding Wharton before he goes to Palace. You know, we need to start getting that Brazilian before he goes to Inter Milan. You know, that's what I want to see Man United do. We can't just keep looking at, oh, great business by Leicester. Oh, great business by Palace. Let's give them the payday that they want. Or Brighton. Like, we need to start finding ways to recruit these players in, which is what we've started to do with the lad from Palace and Obi Martin as well. So I think that's going to be more important. Patrick, welcome to the Members Club. Rios or Sanderpol, says the Duke. Okay, I'll do that. I mean, we're not in for Rios, though, the Duke. You are sort of just playing... Well, I don't mind it, but, you know, a little bit of reality would be good. I mean, we did do Sander versus Amrabat last night. Amrabat won with 70%. So, there we go. We should use Football Manager as part of our scouting. I spoke about Hermosa. We spoke about that. They did say there's a possibility of a loan for Amrabat. I don't really know how a loan works because he's only got a year left on his contract. So effectively a loan would be more or less buying him. Look, I think the Amrabat scenario is really interesting, how that has planned out. I do. But I don't know. I think the midfield for me, I'm just trying to be as pragmatic as possible, and in the sense that I really just want us to get what Ineos want. I mean, I think for me, it's not even about what I want. Well, it is about what I want, selfishly, of course, but I also just don't want excuses anymore. I think for so many years, Glazers, Richard Arnold, Ed Woodward, Mourinho, Ollie, they've all had the excuse of I didn't get what we want, we didn't get what we want, we didn't get what we want. And if you don't get what you want, you can always say, well, I didn't get what I want, and that's why I didn't perform. What I like about De Ligt is it's what Ineos want. What I like about Yoro is it's what Ineos want. what I like about Mazraoui is it's what Ineos want. And if we get Ugarte, it's what Ineos want. And ultimately what Ineos want is what Ten Hag wants. So you've got that structure at last where the manager and the board are in tune and they're getting plan A. How many summer transfer windows have we sat there and gone, oh, another summer where it's just a raft of players that aren't... I mean, Casemiro was not plan A. He was expensive, but he wasn't plan A. So I just want Ugarte because you can sit there and go, well, this is the plan they envisaged. They've got their centre-backs they wanted. They've got the striker they wanted. They've got the right-back they wanted. And they've got the midfielder they wanted. Let's sit back and see what happens this season then, because there can't be any complaints. So I really do want us to get Ugarte. But if we don't, I think it's such an important area of the pitch. It will be an area of not concern, but potential weakness. But I still think the attack's an area of potential weakness. I think the only reason the attack doesn't get discussed is because we're not buying people in the attack. We've got lots of options in the attack, but the conversation is, are they good enough? Rasmus needs to score more goals, but needs more service. We haven't seen much of Xerxes. We don't know what he's going to be. Mason Mount needs to do more. We need to be way more creative with Bruno, Rashford, Ahmad, Garnacho, Anthony. The attack has got a lot to do this season, but probably not getting the focus it should do because it's not an area where we're looking to sell or buy. The midfield was a catastrophe last year, despite the positives of Mainu. It was a catastrophe. It got run through so often. You want to make that impact in that area to instill some confidence going into the season. Did you see the fire in Solihull from the storm yesterday, says Zomler? I didn't, but I saw a post about it. Morning Mark, says UKG Chris. Hope you're doing well. Ross W says, I love the book. Any advice on getting multiple pages unstuck? It shouldn't be that sort of book, Ross. It should not be that sort of book. I mean, I don't know what you're doing if you're getting that excited, but thanks for buying the book. It's up to you what you do with it. If you want to order the book, by the way, Sunday Times bestseller list now. So much feedback, getting loads of people messaging me saying they really enjoy the audio book where you can listen to it. If you want to get yours, scan the QR code and the links in the description as well. Appreciate that. Amazon worldwide, and they've got local stuff as well with WH Smith, etc. BERGE is more useless than Harrison, says Son. And does Wilcox have any input into tactics, says MG99? Look, lots of people profess to know what's going on at Man United because it's their job. I think with regards to... Oh, James has just put the link in for the book in the live chat. I'll just pin that for you as well. We shouldn't and don't know how Man United are being run. But what we do know is that Jason Wilcox is technical director. And what we do know is that Man United, for the first time in a long time, certainly 10 years, have regular meetings strategically around the squad, around performance, because that's very much what Sir David Brailsford was about with Sky Cycling, etc. So as a technical director, you can't sit down with Ten Hag, Wilcox, Ashworth, Barada, maybe Brailsford, Blanc, Rude, whoever's in the room. You can't sit down and talk about your squad and who you want to go and who you want to come in if you're not going to have a chat about the way you're going to play. So they go hand in hand. If they're sat in that meeting going, Ugarte's the guy we want, but if we don't get Ugarte, where are we going to go? You can't be sat in that meeting and then not be going, we want to play like this. Eric, how are we going to play? We're going to play like this. Well, you know, is that really what we want to do? We want to do this. So those conversations 100% are going on. There's no silo of Ten Hag sits in a room with Wilcox and everyone else. They decide on signings, then they walk away and Rude and Ten Hag just decide how they're going to play. There is uniformity, there is discussion, and as technical director, yes, Wilcox would be very involved in that. We've been looking at Ugarte for a long time. I still think we'll get him, says AJW. I do as well. Temi says, can you look at my previous super chat? Harold says, BERGE highly underrated. So underrated, no one else wants to buy him. He's so underrated. Temi, I'm going to try and find your super chat. Here it is. Hi, Mark. A little off topic, but last season and on the weekend, Rashford had no overlapping fullback, which is crucial for his game, whereas Ahmad did, says Temi. I think you make a great point. I think you make a great point. I think Luke Shaw makes Marcus Rashford better with The thing about when you play on the wing and you've got an overlap, and I saw it for years with Gary Neville and David Beckham, is that what Gary Neville's overlap did was it took the attention of defenders that have got to go with him. Because Beckham, if somebody didn't go with Neville, Beckham would wait for Neville to be level with him, pass the ball, Neville's momentum would take him behind that defence, he wouldn't be offside, and he's got a free cross. So when Gary Neville overlaps from David Beckham, Gary Neville takes a defender with him, and that creates space for Beckham to whip a cross in. So, that's a very good example, although it's, 25 years ago. It's a very good example of how an overlapping fullback helps a winger. Now, if you're Marcus Rashford and you don't have that overlapping fullback, those defenders are just focused on you. Now, if Luke Shaw overlaps, someone's got to go with him, which will create a little bit of space for Rashford. Now, what Rashford does with that space is probably not cross. He probably shoots, but it still will make a bit of a difference. And he didn't have it at the weekend because Martinez ain't going to do that. I think hopefully that's something we will see on Friday, because we will have Martinez and hopefully De Ligt, and we can play Delo and Mazraoui if we want to. Morning, Mark. Try Regwell on again. Is that youngster from Arsenal going to be part of our first team, says Igjan? I think we'll have to wait and see on Obi Martin. I think there's a lot of excitement about him, but we'll have to wait and see what happens with him. Hi, we've been looking for Ugarte for a long time. I still think we'll get him. Patrick, thanks very much for your super chat. I'm exhausted this morning. I think I need to go and have a coffee. I'm about to put up a video on That's Football, which I think you'll want to watch. It'll be up for 11, actually. But we're going to be back live. We've got the 8 o'clock show tonight. We will have a 2 o'clock show, but at some point today, we're definitely going to get the drop on De Ligt and Mazraoui. So get ready for that. And make sure you subscribe, bottom right-hand corner. Legends again this morning. Lovely show. Lots and lots of discussion. Really good vibes going on. Really enjoying the shows at the moment. Peter says, have a beer. Not at 10 o'clock. Not at 11 o'clock in the morning. I'll be wasted. I won't stop. But yeah, thanks everyone. And I will see you again very, very soon. Let's keep this momentum going. Have a great day. Stay safe. I want to see you all here again later. Thank you very much. Speak to you in a bit.